Well, hey y'all, and welcome. This is Miss Katie from Heritage Ways, and I was just sitting here looking at our channel and working on some things and looking at the questions that I've received, along with thinking of those along with the ones I've received through direct messaging and emails and so forth about home education. So I'd like to address these questions, these comments, really almost one at a time. Let's start with the first question. Okay, y'all, I've been homeschooling for 15 years. We have 3 older sons that we've graduated. You should know that the first son did go to college for a short time. He did not get a degree, but that was his choice. That was not because it's because he chose different career path. The second son is currently in college and about to finish his associate's degree, and then after that he's going to go for further education. And then my third son has chosen to become an entrepreneur, actually a self-taught, if you will, entrepreneur, as well as many other things that he's into. He's only 19, and he is an entrepreneur 4 different directions, if you will. And he owns his own business with his older brother, our second son. They started that business 2 or 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, really. They are capable of going to college. They have gone, are going, or have chosen not to go. College is not for everybody, and we don't push college on our children. We don't require them to go. We do require our graduated children to further their education in some way. We can talk more about that later. We have 3 younger children. They are 6, 9, and 10. We don't really go by grades because I could tell you why later in another video. I do advise you to talk to as many homeschool families as you can. You will get all kinds of different advice. I don't mean that for you to become overwhelmed, but actually it will help for you to form your own picture of what you want your homeschool to look like. All right, today I want to address one topic, one question, one comment that I'm getting. If you don't mind, I did make some notes because I sat down this morning when the children, the house was quiet and I could think, and I was just writing real quickly. So I'm probably going to refer to this because I want to get it right. I want to give you a well thought out answer to the question. And the question or the comment is this: I want to homeschool, whether you're the mama or the daddy. I want to homeschool, but my spouse, my significant other, doesn't think we should because we're in a, quote, good, unquote, school. Has had no problems. The teachers are, quote, good, unquote. So there's really no reason for us to homeschool at this time. Okay, I reserve the right to deviate from my notes because I'm already thinking of different things, additional things I want to say. A quote good, unquote, school could be small town, big town, a magnet school or what have you, public school, private school, whatever. I'm just going to read. We, Mr. Patient and I, were educated in, quote, good, unquote, small schools, and we have memories of our time and our fellowships in those schools. However, we also have some not so sweet memories. Can I get an amen from anybody on that? I mean, can you relate to that? You grew up in a small, really good school. I use that good word kind of loosely. You know what I mean when I say a good school. Decent teachers, probably the teachers, you go to church with, you sit by at the ballpark because your kids are all on the ball team together. You might have graduated with your child's teacher, you know her, she might be your friend. You see them in town, they live down the street, you just know everybody. And when somebody says a good school, number one, they're usually talking about just a small town, everybody knows everybody. Or number 2, they could mean like good academically, like a magnet school or whatever. So any of our homeschool discussions kind of can take a broad turn if we're not careful. But Mr. Patient and I both grew up in separate small schools, separate town, but just small schools. I have good memories. I have some not so good memories, but that, that's life. Okay. The bigger picture here, and remember, please remember, first of all, I'm asking for grace for you to remember that these are my opinions because I have been asked, and so I'm sharing my opinions and my knowledge of the 15 years of homeschooling, and then the 7 years of public school teaching, and then the 1 year of being the daycare director of the largest daycare in that county. So that's my experience that I'm basing all of this on. I might throw in here that my daddy was a high school teacher in Nashville. My mama was a high school teacher in 2 states, and my brother was and is a school principal. My grandfather on one side, and my grandmother on another side, and my great aunts were all public school teachers. So that is in my blood. It's in my background. It's what I know. It's education. I'm not knocking school teachers or principals with my comments here. So please know that. And you might, I probably should say now that I will link right now the video that I made about, are you qualified to homeschool? All right, we'll keep going. The bigger picture here of good schools and that comment of, well, my kid's in a good school. Nothing's really happened. Haven't had any security scares. I know everybody. Nothing ever happens in this town. Nothing ever happens. Well, we know better than that in America nowadays, unfortunately. We know better than that. We don't need to be that naive. The bigger picture is not whether the school is quaint and good and secure, but who actually has the most influence on your child. If you're okay with someone else's influence on your child, then that's completely fine. This isn't always a bad thing. I know, and unfortunately I can think of faces of little children, and I can think of some of their names whom I taught or whom I've known through the years, or my paths have crossed with some of these people I'm referring to. But in some cases, unfortunately, the outside influences that the children receive are much, much better than the ones at home. That's sad, but true. So in some cases, it is actually better for a child to go and receive that education, those positive influences, that attention, that positive attention. In some cases, this is true, and I'm not going to deny that. But if you consider yourself a conscientious parent, and I think you do, or you wouldn't be watching this video. If you consider yourself attentive, conscientious to what's going on in your child's life, you, by definition, I mean somebody who knows who your children's teachers are. You know their names. You've seen them in parent-teacher conference or at school or whatever. You're familiar with what classes your children are taking at school. You're familiar with what's going on in your child's world. That's what I'm calling a conscientious parent. Helps with homework. That's the parent that I'm referring to. So if you're one of those, you need to stay on top of things. You need to evaluate who is influencing your child and what they are influencing your child, how they are influencing, and more than that, the time that they are spending with your child. If you evaluate all this and you're satisfied with the result, or you're prepared to accept the result, then go with it. I mean, honestly, just go with your gut. Go with whatever you think. I'm not here to judge. There used to be a time, and I'm ashamed to say, that I really was harsh on people who did not homeschool their children. Do I think it is the best way of life? Well, it's absolutely the best way of life for our family. And I could go into the reasons why. And so could my husband and my older children and my younger children. I I think it's foolish for me to make a blanket statement that everybody should homeschool or can or what have you. I'm speaking now, of course, to the ones who are considering it and just need some questions answered. But we need to evaluate all the things that I've just mentioned and be prepared to accept the consequences. Good, bad, ugly, happy, sad. We need to be prepared to accept those or the results. You need to know, I'm going to throw this in here, and this is worthy of another video, but I'm just going to toss it to you. You need to know and understand, and I've been on textbook selection committees, so I know a little bit of what I speak. You need to know that textbooks written after a certain era, decade, usually after 60s, 50s, 60s, are full of things that you might not be interested in your children learning. You just need to know that. If you're fine with these things, great, that's fine. You know, whatever. That's fine. Worldlyism, evolution, socialism, things that our family as Christ followers are not okay with. I will tell you that I did some tutoring after I was a public school teacher, and then I was an interim teacher, and then I was a daycare director. At the first years of my homeschooling, I did some tutoring, and the child that I was helping, he was in middle school, and he brought some grammar papers to me for some help. And in those sentences, you know, they give you sentences and you have to correct them and stuff. Well, the sentences were all about evolution and the millions of years theory and all that kind of thing. So that was grammar. That wasn't science. It wasn't history. It was grammar. So I just want to throw that out to you, let you know that the textbook committees, the textbook companies do have an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. I mean, I don't really necessarily mean that negatively, but everybody has an agenda or a purpose or a world view. Okay, everybody's got one, even a textbook company. So just know that. Know that even in a Christian school. Okay, I don't know what your child is using. I don't know what your child's school is using. All I'm saying, please, is just be informed. That's all I'm saying. Go find out and be informed. There are some textbook companies that I know some Christian schools use that are not full of the things I just mentioned. Just be informed. We all make choices and decisions, and we must be intentional enough to be prepared to accept the consequences and the results. Okay? No matter what educational choice you make, there are pros and cons. Evaluate those possibilities. Educate yourself. And consider this. I was making my notes, and again, please forgive me for reading this, but I wanted to get this video out, and I wanted to have logical thoughts. But consider this. If you are a believer of a particular faith or sect, or even a non-believer or an unbeliever, if you're a Christian, you know, if you're a Protestant, if you're a Jew, if you're a Catholic or Orthodox, you know, Greek Orthodox, atheist, agnostic, whatever your belief or your unbelief. If you have an unbelief, that's still your belief. So whatever your belief, if you're firm in that, would you be okay? Let's just say you are an atheist, okay? And you're really firmly, you believe in what you believe. And or you believe in what you don't believe. But let's just say you are. Are you okay with sending your 2 children to a, let's just say a Jewish synagogue to learn all day, every Saturday and every Sunday of their lives, except for maybe 2 or 3 months off in the summer? You know, just think of the scenario. You know, are you okay Are you prepared to accept the results of what might happen because you have sent them to that situation that is not what you believe? You know, if you're a Christian, you know, if you are a Southern Baptist, and you are you okay with sending your child to I don't know, I'm pulling this out of the hat, but okay, a Catholic school all day Saturday and all day Sunday for all their lives except for the weekend? And I'm not judging any faiths. I'm trying to make a point. I'm saying that that's what you may be doing by sending your child to a school where they're teaching things, even maybe by innuendo, teaching things that are not what you would want to be taught at your dining room table, kitchen table. So you might want to rewind what I just said, let that sink in, and think about it. If you're okay with that, you know, if you're the atheist parents and you've sent your child to the, whatever my example was, to the place where, what did I say? Jewish synagogue? And they decide to become Jews when they're old enough to decide, which may be junior high or high school. You know, are you okay with that? That's all I'm saying. Just think about that, because as much as it hurts us, and I did mention this in the other video, and as much as it's nasty for me to say or ugly for you to hear, you don't want to hear this, but whomever has our children for the majority of the day is the major influencer of your child. You can protest all you want. I get it. I hear you. You say, well, I've got my child on, you know, afternoons and nights and weekends. Yes, you do. Yes. And that's great. But just know that, you know, it occurred to me, this idea didn't occur to me until just a few years ago. But I'm waking up and, because my children were in public school for a short time when I was teaching, I was sending them, putting them on that bus or taking them to school for the most alert and happy and awake hours of their day. And I was getting the poor kids for the afternoon grumpies and all that horrible homework and the tears, mine and theirs. I could tell you some stories about what led up to our decision to homeschool. But I was getting them for those old grumpy hours, and then for bedtime. And then the weekends, you know, those are great. You know, we have the weekends together. So do I want to give up those best hours of my children's, dare I say, life? No, now I don't. And I realize that now. I certainly don't. My husband, I mean, like it or not, his job, his corporation has him for the best hours of his day. I mean, think about that. You know I'm right. My husband leaves here. He works 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. And he leaves here and he leaves before it gets daylight and I'm still asleep, honestly. And he gets home 12 hours later and he's exhausted. And then we eat supper and we do, you know, an hour's worth of whatever we're going to do as a family and he goes to bed. So yes, it's true. It's a sad truth. His corporation has him for the good hours of his day. You know, when he's awake and alert and happy. Just consider that idea. Let that roll around in your head. And if you're okay with that, okay, that's fine. All right. I do want to, I made a point here to say, you know, make sure that you're okay with that. And if you're okay with it, then fine. But please know this from a public school teacher's point of view, and I don't mean this necessarily negatively. I'm just making sure you understand that all schools have an agenda.
The Heritage Ways show coming at you from McDonald's. I'm sitting here editing this video, and I want to interject here. I want to add a little edit, a little thing to tell you that I thought of when I was watching this. I want to tell you that, or remind you, that not just the school, the institution, has an agenda or a goal, a purpose, the way they want your child to turn out, test scores, all that. But each teacher does, each individual. I'm going to give you an example. When I taught school, 3rd grade and 5th grade, there was mention in the science books about the millions of years and all that, and they taught it as fact. Well, I skipped over that part, and I even told my children I was going to skip over that part because I did not believe it and could not in good faith and conscience teach it. So that's just one example that where my worldview influenced those children. That happens with every single teacher that your child has. So each teacher's worldview is going to be a part of your child's education. So it's not just the institution, but each teacher. Now, if you are one of those who says, well, my child needs to learn all kinds of worldviews, and that's fine, but, at 5 years old, at 7 years old, that's for you to decide. All right, let's carry on to the regularly scheduled video.
And then I want to close with a quote from Vodi Bakum. He's a pastor, we really have enjoyed through the years some of the things he has to say. And he makes this quote: "If you send your kids to Caesar for their education, don't be surprised when they return as Romans." So basically what I'm just trying to say as well. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea or an answer or response to the question of, well, we're in a good school. You know what? I know. My brother is a principal in a, quote, good school. I mean, it is. We used to live down there where he lives. We used to go to church with many of those teachers. They're really good people. They're good at heart. They're good at what they do. They're knowledgeable. And so it's a good school. They've never had any security scares yet. It is a good school. To summarize what we've said, just be educated yourself. Evaluate what's going on, and if you're okay with the outcome or the possible outcome, and then go with it. Thanks for watching, y'all. Please leave below any more comments you have. I'm writing these down. I'm trying to come up with the best answers that I can from my perspective and my experience. Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.